Chapter 103 Shizun, I'm coming to find you. So it was like that. His disciple. Moran had never imagined that this exalted monk, someone practically indifferentiable betwixt human and ghost, was Chu Wanning's teacher. For a moment he found himself unable to speak. It was Shi Mei who reacted first, bending his head at once in a formal rite of respect. I was unaware that the great master was thus related to our late master, he said in a deferential tone. This humble one offers Huaizui Shizu his sincere greetings. There's no need to call me Shizu, Master Huaizui replied. Chu Wanning was expelled from the sect by this humble monk long ago. Ah! Shi Mei's eyes widened slightly in surprise. I see. He was prudent by nature, though he was curious. He understood from the faint wistfulness of Master Huaizui's expression that the monk had no wish to speak of it, and so asked no further. But Moran's thoughts were elsewhere. He pressed urgently, feeling as though his still beating heart was being broiled in his chest. Great Master, you said you came here for Shizun, so do you have some means of bringing Shizun back? Achan, do you know how to bring him back? Tell me the truth. Do you know how? The rapid pumping of his heart, coupled with exhaustion from days of overwork, made Moran lightheaded. His vision swam, and the rest of the sentence caught in his throat, impossible to speak. But the rims of his eyes grew red. Master Huaizui sighed. Moshichu, pray take care. But yes, that is indeed why this old monk is here. Moran's face, once pale as paper, flushed with color. He stared fixedly at Master Huaizui, his bloodless lips quivering for a moment before he managed to continue. Do you really? This old monk would not disturb the two Shichu so late at night for a prank. Moran still wanted to say more. His throat moved, but only a choked sob emerged. A long interval passed in silence. The rebirth technique alters fate in defiance of heaven's will, and is no simple matter. Master Huaizui finally said. This old monk owes Chu Zongshe much. If not, I would never have resorted to such measures. Visiting Sisheng Peak was a decision made after 7 days of consideration. Altering fate in defiance of heaven's will? Moran said, testing the words. After a second, he muttered miserably. Altering fate in defiance of heaven's will. If even a sinner like me was given the opportunity to alter my fate in defiance of heaven's will, then surely a good person like him should be given the same chance. Half crazed as he was in that moment, Moran actually let slip his own alteration of fate in defiance of heaven's will. It was only luck that he had been mumbling indistinctly, and no one caught the insinuation that he himself was reborn. Shizu, said Shi Mei, since it alters fate in defiance of heaven's will, and rebirth itself is a forbidden technique, I imagine it must be extremely difficult to perform, and may not necessarily succeed, right? Correct, Huaizui affirmed. This technique involves not only the wielder and the deceased, but also requires a third person to locate the totality of the deceased soul. The journey to rebirth is rife with hardships, and the slightest mistake could result in eternal damnation and complete shattering of the soul. Shi Mei fell silent. For that reason, this old monk need not disturb anyone else, and came only to ask Chu Zongshe's 3 disciples if you would be willing to tread fire and flood and pass through untold dangers for him. If you are not willing, then even if this old monk opens the gate of rebirth, Chu Wanning will not be able to return. Moran had guessed most of this, even before Huaizui's explanation. The reason the 3 forbidden techniques were forbidden was that, unlike ordinary magic, they required certain sacrifices, and involved certain dangers. In the last lifetime, he had been willing to give his life for Shi Mei. In this one, he had already decided that, in order to repay his debt to Chu Wanning, he would again not hesitate. Moran wasn't heartless. It was just that, in the last lifetime, he had never been willing to give Chu Wanning even the tiniest piece of his heart. In the glow of the candlelight, Moran looked directly at Master Huaizui. "The great master needn't ask Shu Meng," he said. "Shizun died because of me. There's no need to involve anyone else in this matter. I, Moran, am willing to shoulder all the dangers of the technique alone." "Aran," Shi Mei muttered, then turned to ask Huaizui. "Shizu's words are sobering indeed. What will the actual trial be like?" "Although Mo Shizu is willing to undertake the dangers himself," Huaizui said. "For the first step of this technique, the more people there are willing to take the risk, the more likely it is to succeed. So, let's wait for Shu Chichu to get here, and then I will explain to all three of you. This old monk already asked someone to call him when I first arrived." He paused, then smiled at Shi Mei. "On a separate note, please remember not to refer to this old monk as Shizu. I mentioned earlier, this old monk no longer holds the position of Chuzong's Shizun." Now that Moran had calmed down somewhat, he had to ask, "Why did the great master expel our Shizun from the sect?" Shi Mei was flabbergasted. "Aran!" "No matter. It's not some unspeakable thing." Huaizui sighed. "In this humble monk's youth, he once received the care of a benefactor. However, my benefactor was ill-fated and lost his life protecting others in a great calamity. It has been 100 years hence, but the thought of it still makes this humble monk uneasy. Thus, the most important rule of our sect has always been that its disciples must focus solely on cultivation and, until and unless they reach enlightenment, are forbidden from setting foot in the outside world or meddling in matters thereof, so as to safeguard their own lives." Moran considered it for a moment, then said, "Shizun couldn't do it." "Indeed." There was a bitter twist in Huaizui's smile. "That little disciple of mine had a temperament, much like my benefactor's. He grew up in the temple, and though he had little in the way of experience, he possessed skill and talent in abundance. By all rights, he ought to have cultivated into ascension without incident. But the year he came of age, he happened to be at the foot of the mountain, collecting ores, and came upon a group of fleeing refugees." Shi Mei sighed. "Shizun definitely wouldn't just stand by and watch." Huaizui nodded. "Not only did he not stand by, after he escorted the refugees to safety and made arrangements for them, he left the mountain without permission to see for himself how people lived within the lower cultivation realm." Moran and Shi Mei lapsed into silence. Sisheng Peak had been only recently established back then, and the situation in the lower cultivation realm had been far more chaotic than now. What Chu Wanning had seen there went without saying. When he returned, he told me that he wanted to put his cultivation training on hold so he could go down among the people to help the injured and save lives. "Did you agree?" Shi Mei asked. "No." Shi Mei fell quiet. "He was only 15 then, with a pure, simple nature and a hot temper. It would have been far too easy for some malefactor to deceive him. How could I possibly allow him to go out on his own? Besides, his cultivation was high, but his constitution was poor, and all kinds of dangers and dangerous characters lurk in the world. As his master, this humble monk truly couldn't help but worry." "But he didn't listen to you in the end?" Moran guessed. "No, he didn't. We had a heated argument about it. He said, how can Shizun just sit there all day, with his eyes closed, trying to ascend, while the common people suffer before our eyes? Ah, Shi Mei exclaimed in surprise. Such words directed at Huaizui would have been extremely harsh, no matter who said them. But for them to come from Chu Wanning, his own disciple at the time, was shockingly improper. Huaizui's expression was placid, but a hint of melancholy colored his features. This humble monk's control over his emotions was yet lacking back then, and in a fit of anger, this humble monk said to his disciple, "You can't even save yourself. How can you save others?" "And what did Shizun say?" Shi Mei asked. "If you don't know how to save others, how can you save yourself?" The entire hall fell silent at these words, because they came not from Huaizui, but, in a whisper, from Moran. Upon suddenly hearing him speak the same words as Chu Wanning back then, Master Huaizui gazed quietly at the young man before him, his eyes glinting in the candlelight. After a long interval, he heaved a deep sigh. "Isn't that what he's been teaching you?" Huaizui sighed again. "He really never changed at all. Ever that unwavering conviction in his path." Huaizui's mind was a mess. Moran wasn't much better. He had always scoffed at that line of Chu Wanning's. He had thought it to be fake righteousness and empty words. But when he said it just now, he instead felt anguish, like his heart was engulfed by flames. Several seconds passed before Huaizui's hollow voice echoed once again inside Loyalty Hall. "It shames me to admit it, but I lost my temper that day. I told him that if he insisted on being stubborn, if he took one step outside the temple gates, then we would be master and disciple no more. Our ties would be severed." He paused, as if choking on that piece of the past, as if he wanted to explain in detail, yet also did not. He hesitated, then shook his head. "As I'm sure you've guessed, Chu Wanning ultimately chose to cut ties and leave. It's been many years since that day. He and I sought different things. So, though we both walked this mortal world, our paths have never since crossed." "That's not Shi Mei began. "That's not the great master's fault." "Right and wrong," Huaizui replied. "Truth and falsehood. These things are not easily grasped. But Chu Wanning was once my disciple, and since I heard that he died in that bloody battle, this humble monk has found no peace. Thus I have come here to do what I can, try our luck, see if we can bring Chuzongshe." At that moment, the hall's vermilion-painted doors were flung open. Shu Meng stood in the doorway. When he'd arrived, no one knew, but he had clearly overheard the part that mattered. He had only been told that Master Huaizui was here, not what the old monk came for. So he'd taken his time getting here, sipping dejectedly at his bowl of herbal medicine as he walked. Now, after hearing Huaizui's proposal, the bowl lay shattered in pieces on the floor, and the hot medicinal brew had splattered all over him. But the son of the phoenix seemed not to feel the burn at all as he cried, "Bring back! Bring back! Shizun can come back!" He stumbled into the room at a run and unceremoniously grabbed onto Huaizui. "You bald donkey! What did you just say? Is this some kind of joke?" "Young master, this is—" Shi Mei hurried to interject. "No, that was unbecoming of me." Although he didn't know the man before him had been Chu Wanning's master, Shu Meng did at least remember that he was here to save his Shizun's life. He swiftly let go. "Great master, as long as you can bring Shizun back, if you ever need anything in the future, I, Shu Meng, will go through hell and high water, risk life and limb for you. Just please say it's not jest." "Sure, Chichu," Huaizui said. "There's no need for all that. This humble monk came calling at this late hour, specifically for your Shizun." He turned to gaze out the window at the night. "It's almost time. Since the 3 young Shichu are all assembled, please allow this humble monk to impart to you the details and challenges of the rebirth technique. Please do, Great Master, Shi Mei said, but Chu Wanning pressed, urgent. What's there to say? Skip the talk and go save him already. Sure, Chichu is understandably anxious. Huaizui replied, but you must realize that any mistake could not only cost you your life, it could also irretrievably scatter Chu Wanning's soul. If such a thing were to happen, your Shizun would no longer be able to enter the cycle of reincarnation. Would you risk this? Chu Wanning's face flushed and his hands clenched tightly around the hems of his sleeves. Only after several seconds did his grip loosen. All right, I'll listen to the Great Master's explanation. Huaizui produced from his storage pouch 3 pure white silk lanterns. The white silk of the exterior was shot through with thin threads of gold, and a complex glyph was embroidered on the center of each lantern in 13 colors of silken thread, circling and interlacing like a spider web spun to capture departing souls. These are soul-calling lanterns. Master Huaizui distributed the 3 lanterns, 1 to each of them. Take these and attend carefully to what this humble monk will say next. Moran took a lantern gingerly in his hands. Every living person has 3 ethereal souls and 7 corporeal spirits. The 3 ethereal souls are the earth soul, the cognizant soul, and the human soul. After death, these 3 souls leave the body and each go their own way. All of this you know already, but I would hazard a guess that you don't know where exactly each soul goes. Please enlighten us, Great Master, Shi Mei said. The earth soul and the human soul proceed to the underworld, while the cognizant soul remains within the body. It's said that one's soul returns on the 7th day, but in truth, it is only the human soul that returns to the world of the living, where it meets with the cognizant soul. The human soul, by and large, returns due to some unfulfilled wish. Once its wish is realized, it will merge with the cognizant soul within the body. The merged soul will then go to the underworld to reunite with the earth soul, and when the 3 are complete again, they will there await reincarnation. Many who attempt rebirth without full knowledge of its intricacies end up calling back an incomplete portion of the soul, which naturally dissipates in short order. After Shi Mei's death in the past life, Moran had indeed tried to call back his soul, but it had been just as Huaizui said. Under the bone-white moonlight, there had appeared only a faint shadow of that person, which had dispersed instantly into glitters of light. So that's how it is, Moran muttered. Chu Wanning's cognizant soul yet remains in his body. Huaizui continued. That one you needn't worry about. Our success hinges on finding his human soul and his earth soul. How do we find them? Chu Wanning asked hastily. By using the soul-calling lantern. Huaizui answered. This lantern is lit by spiritual energy alone, so you must sustain it with a stream of your own and carry it through Sisheng Peak. If Chu Wanning does not refuse the 3 Shichu, then the light of the soul-calling lantern will illuminate his human soul. At these words, Moran's heart sank. Then what if Shizun doesn't want to see us? That's the first challenge, said Huaizui, and the reason our chance of success is greater if more people are willing to look for him. I must caution you that if Chu Wanning has no lingering attachment to this world and has already decided to pass on, then the soul-calling lantern will be unable to illuminate him. As you can see, for the rebirth technique to work, everything, time, place, and people must align perfectly. If the deceased retains no attachment to any of those who search for him, and is unwilling to return to the world of the living, then no one can compel him to return. Moran's hands tightened unconsciously around the body of the lantern, and he fell silent. Chu Wanning, however, did not hesitate. Shizun cared for us more than anyone. How could he refuse to come back? Great Master, after we find Shizun's human soul with the lanterns, what then? Once you find the human soul, you must travel to a certain place. Where? Chu Wanning asked. The underworld. All three of them were shocked. They hadn't anticipated actually descending into the underworld in person. Shi Mei let out a soft, "Ah," then lowered his graceful lashes slightly and asked in a quiet voice, How could a living person go into hell?" "I have my ways. Shizun need not concern himself with the how." Huaizui leveled him with a measured gaze and continued, "But of the three of you, no matter who finds Chu Wanning's human soul first, you must wholeheartedly wish for him to return to the living world and be unreservedly willing to go to the heavens above and the underworld below for his sake. If he lacks strength of conviction, then Chu Wanning's soul will scatter midway and may never be gathered again." "That's—" Shi Mei started, but Chu Wanning spoke first. "The depth of the affection and regard I hold for Shizun is beyond measure. Even if I must go to the infinite hells to find him, I'd have no complaints." "Shizun died because of me." Moran lifted his eyes. After a short pause, he too agreed. "I owe him far too much. I also have no complaints." "Good," said Huaizui. "Then listen well. Once one of you finds Chu Wanning's human soul, the others will no longer be able to see him. Whoever finds him must be sure to keep the soul-calling lantern lit all the way until daybreak, and to keep his soul within its light." "Doesn't sound too difficult," Chu Wanning observed. "It's difficult," Huaizui said. "Once the three souls split, it is common for each to be missing something. It could be hearing, cognition, or memories. Simply put, if you're unlucky, the Shizun you meet may not be willing to listen to you, and you'll have to figure out some way to win him over." Chu Wanning was struck speechless. Moran felt his heart contract with unease. He asked, hesitant, "Win him over? But what if we say something wrong? He was hard enough to predict in life, and now that he's a ghost?" Moran's worry was genuine, but the friction between him and Chu Wanning had festered for so long that Chu Wanning's first thought was that he meant to disparage Chu Wanning. He turned furiously to glare at Moran. "What's so hard about convincing Shizun?" he snapped. "Just keep him within the lantern's range." "What happens after daybreak?" Shi Mei cut in. "After daybreak, Chu Wanning's human soul will drift into the soul-calling lantern. This humble monk will wait by the bridge with a bamboo raft. Sisheng Peak is situated at the entrance of the ghost realm, and the waters beneath Naihe Bridge flow directly into the Yellow Springs. This raft will ferry whoever locates the soul fragment into the ghost realm." "You can go to the ghost realm on a bamboo raft?" Chu Wanning asked. "Only one person can go?" Shi Mei questioned, right behind him. "The others can't help?" "They cannot. Whoever finds Chu Wanning's human soul must go alone into the ghost realm to seek his earth soul as well. If that person should give up halfway or have second thoughts, then Chu Wanning's human soul will be devoured by the soul-calling lantern, never to reincarnate." Chu Wanning started. He whipped his head around to Moran and said, "You sit this one out. I don't trust you." Moran kept his silence and weathered his cousin's doubt without protest. Shi Mei did his best to keep the peace. "Young master," he said, "Aran isn't the type to back out like that, so—" "So what if he's not?" Chu Wanning snapped. "He's got Shizun killed once already. Why should I believe he won't do it a second time? He's a goddamn scourge. The Great Master is still here, Shi Mei reminded him quietly. How can you say that? Why shouldn't I say it? Am I wrong? How many times has Shizun gotten hurt because of him? Anytime he's around, there's trouble. The rims of Chu Wanning's eyes grew red and his lips quivered as he spoke. He trembled all over, then suddenly lost control and reached out to wrest the so-calling lantern from Moran's hand. Give me the lantern. Don't bring Shizun any more misfortune. Moran had no reply. Give it to me. Chu Wanning swore at him. Moran did not argue. For the first time in his life, he felt Chu Wanning was right. Be it in front of the ghost mistress of ceremonies, or at the bottom of Jincheng Lake, which of Chu Wanning's injuries couldn't be laid at his feet? How many scars did Chu Wanning carry because of him? A scourge. He wasn't wrong. But even so, even knowing he had treated his Shizun disgracefully, even knowing he wasn't worthy to beg him to return from the underworld, he still didn't want to let that soul-calling lantern go. He held tightly, stubbornly, to that pale white lantern as Chu Wanning cursed and tore at him. Even as bloody scratches appeared on the backs of his hands, he remained still, his head bowed. When Chu Wanning, breathing harshly, finally loosened his grip, it was to say with reddened eyes, Over you, how much longer do you intend to hurt him? Moran didn't look at him. He stared down at that empty lantern in silence. Just as the silence stretched so long, it seemed he wasn't going to respond at all. He suddenly said, quiet, I want to bring him back home. His voice was so quiet, pushed down by the weight of shame and guilt. So quiet that Chu Wanning at first didn't quite catch it and stood blinking for a beat before he realized what Moran had said. He sneered. Ha! You want to bring him home? Moran closed his eyes without a word. Chu Wanning spat at him, every syllable torn to shreds between his teeth. Have you no shame? Young master! Let go of me! Let go! Chu Wanning ripped his sleeve from Shi Mei's grasp. Sorrow and resentment flashed in his eyes as he glared unrelentingly at Moran. His voice was raw as he said, What right do you have? Moran's hands flinched slightly where he held the lantern, and his lashes dropped still lower. For a delirious instant, Moran half expected to hear Chu Wanning cut in with, Chu Wanning, behave. As if he was still alive. It turned out that, all this time, Chu Wanning had been protecting him. Moran was the one who had taken it all for granted. Moran didn't know what to say. He held desperately onto that lantern, as if grasping a lifeline. Head still bowed, he repeated, I want to bring him home. Is that all you know how to say? You. That's enough, Shuochichu. Master Huaizui finally couldn't bear to watch any longer. He sighed. Since Mochichu wishes to go, we should let him. If something really does go awry, we can correct course then. But as of now, all is yet uncertain. There is no need for Shuochichu to be so antagonistic. Chu Wanning's expression was dark. He had more he wanted to say, but restrained himself out of consideration for Huaizui. Yet it wasn't long before his restraint slipped again, and he growled out, If anything happens to Shizun, I'll personally lay your corpse at his grave. Huaizui sighed again. Please, settle your grievances some other day. There isn't much time left. Right now, our priority is to find the human soul. Please begin, Great Master, said Moran. The soul-calling lanterns have already been enchanted. Seeing Moran immediately move to light the lantern with spiritual energy, Huaizui raised a hand to stop him. Shichu, a moment. Is there still something else? Chu Wanning pressed impatiently. This humble monk wants to be perfectly clear. If one of you should find Chu Wanning's human soul, you cannot back out of the journey to the underworld. This humble monk will cast a protection spell on you, but it is still horribly dangerous for a living person to enter the land of the dead. One careless move, and you may not return alive. Master Huaizui directed a solemn gaze at each of them in turn. This is no idle threat. Locating Chu Wanning's earth soul in the underworld may not be difficult. The difficulty is in stepping into hell alone to face the unknown. If you're unlucky, you'll find the earth soul quickly, but if you're unlucky and encounter any mishaps, then will die? Shi Mei asked. Death would be the least of it, I'm afraid. If such a thing were to happen, both Chu Wanning and the Shichu would be annihilated from the cycle of reincarnation. Huaizui continued. That's why, if there's any kernel of doubt in your heart, I recommend you return your lantern. No one in this world is obligated to die for the sake of another. There's no shame in valuing your own life. If you are unsure, there's still time to turn back. I'm sure, Chu Wanning exclaimed, the most zealous and hot-blooded of the trio. Whoever backs out is a spineless chicken, he added, and glared viciously at Moran. But Chu Wanning didn't really understand Moran after all. This cousin of his was nothing like him. Perhaps it was due to the endless humiliations he had suffered as a child that Moran's love and hate had been ground down into sharp claws. If someone hurt him, he would eviscerate them. But if someone treated him well, afforded him even a tiny speck of kindness, he would never forget. Moran shot Chu Wanning a sidelong glance before returning his gaze to Huaizui. I'm also sure. Huaizui nodded. Very well. When you reach the ghost realm, you must find his earth soul as swiftly as possible. Once the human soul and the earth soul fuse inside the soul-calling lantern, it will light your path back to the living world. At that point, this old monk will take care of the rest. When he put it like that, it didn't sound terribly daunting, but all three were aware that every step of the process was uncertain and full of dangers, especially journeying into the underworld. If Chu Wanning's earth soul couldn't be found, or if it was missing cognition or memories and would not fuse, then whoever went down to find him could plausibly get stuck down there. Thus, before the three disciples lit their soul-calling lanterns, Huaizui intoned in a slow, solemn voice. Once the lanterns are lit, there's no turning back. This is truly no joking matter, so allow this humble monk to ask one final time. Are you absolutely certain? Once you begin, there can be no room for regrets. The three of them answered as one. No regrets. Good. Good. A smile, half bitter, half gratified, spread slowly across Huaizui's face. Chu Wanning, it seems you've been a better Shizun than I. He recited the incantation silently, and the soul-calling lanterns flickered faintly twice, then lit. A pair of scarlet flames flared near simultaneously within the lanterns in Chu Wanning and Moran's hands, dyeing the white silk a vibrant red. A moment later, the lantern Shi Mei held also flared to life with a faint blue light, the color of water elemental spiritual energy. Go, Huaizui said. Success or failure, return or no, all will be decided this eve. If we fail tonight, then... Huaizui sighed. Moran thought of the care Chu Wanning had shown him when he was alive, and felt a dull, throbbing pain in his heart. He couldn't bear to hear the rest of Huaizui's words, so he said, The great master need say no more. Whether I have to kneel, crawl, or lay down my own life, I'll definitely bring Shizun back to the world of the living. As long as he's willing, as long as he's still willing to come back with me. 3 halos of light set out individually from Loyalty Hall. Before long, each had vanished into the boundless dark.